All right, so we're going recording over here, live on the Facebook page on the other one. And we got everybody on. Was that the Ranger Up one that says, you know, when you step on the mat, you realize you're not who you thought you were? No, that's a good one. So
that's a good shirt.
Yep. So
what are you doing?
Sorry about that. I was turning off my amp. I just realized I still have the stuff on. So.
Yeah, it is.
We're gonna rock. You could have rocked out for us. Gave us a little intro music.
Oh yeah. Start shredding out.
Set up, ready to go. Oh, good. Oh, good. So, and then, yo. Yeah, you can. So, all right. So we are back at it again. We got another guest over here. This is one of Coach Tucker's wrestlers. I'll let Coach. You wanna? When he's in top.
I've got eldest running around with the ribbon with our cat chasing it. So that's what life stories here. Life stories, like Hassan, like we said. You know.
It is. All right. So we'll let Nick do an introduction today for our other guest speaker, and we'll just go ahead and chat wrestling and other life stuff here in a little bit.
All right, so yeah, I brought you guys. Glad we're on here again. So what I've got is Hassan Hawthorne. When I came to Pelham, a few years ago, he was a senior. Some people might know him because he's a double amputee. He still does not have legs. So from the knees down, double amputee, became a state champ here in Alabama, undefeated state champ at 145 pounds. Went on and wrestled at Northern Idaho College, and then is currently at Hastings College in Nebraska wrestling. He'll be graduating in the fall. So we were talking a couple weeks ago about people overcoming adversity and things like that, especially with what's going on. And just kind of popped up. Hey, I need to do an interview with him. So just finished on my podcast and channel, got that up, and so we said, hey, we'll get him on all this. So Hassan Hawthorne.
Awesome. Glad to have you, man.
Thank you.
Good deal. Nick and I were talking about it. Maybe the last show before. We were like, yeah, he's getting ready to graduate college. I was like, nah, man, he just left for college last year or so. It's like, no, time flies. You're been off from college, getting ready to graduate. Heck, Tyler and I have talked about it. It doesn't seem like it was that terribly long ago that he was wrestling for me in middle school, and now he's my assistant coach and the co-host of the podcast here. But man, if nothing else, with all the things going on with COVID-19 and everything else, time is still going. Every day we get up is another day. It's moving on, and people, whether they're getting to have their ceremonies or not, getting to graduate and get ready to go do big things. But it's just kind of a crazy time, and just makes it put it in perspective. Like, wow, it's been that long, and no matter what happens, time still keeps on moving. So. But
yeah, what's even crazier is that you mentioned it about me being your assistant. It just seems like yesterday that I was wrestling for you. When you think about it, me becoming your assistant didn't seem that long ago, but this will actually be year 7 that I've been. Yeah, so that's been 7 years that I've been with you there at McCracken. So
yeah, cool. All right, Hassan. Well, since we got you on over here, we talked about adversity and stuff. I guess ask you a couple questions, and then anything we want to talk about. If you want to just chime in as well, it'd be awesome. But I guess my first question is did wrestling find you, or did you find wrestling? How did you get started with your wrestling journey?
It was kind of both, to be honest. I played a lot of sports like baseball, football, and swimming and all of that. And I was looking for a sport I could really start competing in because I was about to get to high school. I wanted to have that one main focus of a sport. And then, two of my close friends, and they were, I'm going to spend the night with them. They're at a youth tournament. Ended up seeing one of my classmates that became my teammate in high school. And then I see them doing walk on the hands and cartwheels and 4 rolls and warm-ups. I was like, I could do that. I do that around the house all the time. I tried it, and then I was like, oh, Mom and Dad want to wrestle. Went to the first practice, got beat up, and then I just fell in love with it. It was definitely a challenge. I didn't really start winning until 4 years down the road, but I just fell in love with it, and it was just fun to constantly try to, keep getting better. So it was kind of both. I found it, and it found me. It just kind of meshed well together.
All right. Awesome. I'm going to throw this out there. I think it's funny how many of us can have the same story of went to that first day of practice, got beat up, and we all liked it and came back. Like, what is wrong with us wrestling in general, or whichever, that, you know, most people's first encounter with something, if you get beat up, you know, and just like get it handed to you like that first day, is not necessarily to come back that next day, or to have fallen in love with it, more or less come back to it. So I think it's awesome to hear that story. Like, it never, you know, whether you're a double amputee, single amputee, or have all limbs available, I always love that story. It's like, man, went in that first day, got tore up and beat up and handed to me and everything else under the sun, and fell in love with it and decided to come back. I'm like, I don't know. There's just something great about our sport and how that works out, I think.
It's kind of in the genetic code of humans as it is. I mean, we have, especially as Americans, are extremely soft. Let's just say it for what it is, because we are blessed. We're the most blessed nation in the world. If you look even around the world, but a lot of the stuff that I listen to as I'm reading, or listen to as I'm running stuff, is about, I've been listening to a lot of stuff from the Lakotas and Native American cultures, and it has been things about, hey, you got to embrace the challenge, or, you know, people say embrace the grind and stuff like that. But I mean, you go back, heck, you go into some places today, but you go back in history, and just the way it is, the way that humans developed was you want the challenge. And so when you say that, kind of popped up into my head, just saying, like, you know, that's why we love this sport, because we still have that in us. It's like, yeah, we want this toughness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I got introduced to it as well. I mean, one of my friends when I was younger, one of Coach Purdy's wrestlers, I grew up around them, went to elementary school with them, the Scoggins family, hanging out with Jared and them. And, you know, they were like kickboxers, and his brothers wrestled and all that. Anyway, we were I'd go over to their house a lot, and he was the one who introduced me to wrestling. And I just remember from there, I was like, holy cow, this is something that, like, I've got to figure out. And it was the same thing that when I first started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. As I remember my first practice, and, you know, going in there and be able to wrestle everybody, but then, you know, getting my neck cranked on and my arms like pulled around. I'm like, hold up one second. This is something that I need to figure out, because now that I've just got shut down here, now I've got to go over here and figure out this. And it's just that journey that I think, like, all people in martial arts, specifically wrestling, we just have that in common. It's, you know, we have a desire, like, we have that need to figure out why we just got, you know, beat up on.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Another question for you. When you were coming toward, like, your senior year, I think Nick said it. He said that's when he came in as one of the coaches over there. You know, how much of wrestling in college, or going forth to the college level, was something was it something you were thinking about going into your senior year, or was it kind of like your senior year evolved and you're like, do I want to do this in college? Is this possible in college? Like, were there, you know, the obvious hurdles that you were thinking about you might face during recruitment, or, like, what was that process from going from, you know, the high school athlete to now the collegiate level?
So, you know, sophomore year, junior year, I'm going to a couple national tournaments, but, you know, I didn't really do good at them. There's kind of to get experience, to get out of the state, to kind of, you know, just experience, you know, how other states wrestle and stuff like that. So I knew that if I wanted to go to college to wrestle, I was going to get better. But, like, it really wasn't I can see myself doing this in college. It was really just kind of, I thought I'd be done after high school, to be honest. And, you know, of course, any wrestler, you know, you dream of going to the big, you know, Oklahoma State, Iowa, Penn State, all those schools. So, like, it was a thought. It was never like, okay, I'm really going to try to find a school. But then, you know, senior year came, I was wrestling really well, doing really well, you know, finally the light bulb started to click on technique and different positions where I could see myself winning. And I was like, okay, I got, you know, I find things, but then it was still kind of like, okay, you know, I'm not really thinking about college. But then after I won state, you know, schools really started to hit me up. But then it was still kind of like, oh, like, I don't think they're serious. I just think, you know, you're a senior, you got to go somewhere. I think they're probably just hitting you up. But then, you know, I went to Virginia Beach Nationals and did a really good job, actually. You know, I didn't All-American, but I got pretty close. And I beat some pretty good dudes. And then that's when I was kind of like, okay, maybe I can, you know, go wrestle in college. I'm hanging with some pretty good kids. You know, I had some close matches with some, you know, 4-time state champs and that. And then just seeing, like, how the college coaches were interested in me. And then my dad just kept saying, like, look, man, you know, college coaches see potential in kids, recruit, and your potential is there. So if you think you can do it, go do it. And that's kind of what the college coaches were saying. Like, we see something in you. We want to help you and help you mold into, who you are, but also, I wanted to help my parents out and try not to make them pay for my whole schooling. So if I could get a scholarship, great. And luckily, thankfully I got a scholarship, and it just kind of was the initial thought, like, oh, I might go to college. But then, I really started to make some noise, and then I was like, maybe I can actually do this. And then that's kind of like, how does the wrestling, man? You just kind of keep trying goals and keep trying things. I was like, all right, what's the next step then after, nationals? And that was to wrestle in college. And well, I wanted to figure out, how do I get good in college? You get good in high school.
Yeah.
One in college is basically the state champ. So how do I get in college? So that's how it started, as the initial thought, and then I just kind of ran with it.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I think you hit on a lot of key points for anybody who is looking to, want to do this at a level beyond high school or anything else. It's like trying to get exposure to some things that are out of your state and just seeing how other people wrestle. Because, yeah, when you do go to college, it's going to be different because they'll, it's not just, no matter what state it's in, like Okie State, they don't recruit solely out of Oklahoma. They pull people in from all over because, eventually, going to wrestling nationals, you're going to wrestle people from all around the nation and different styles and different things. So, I think it's awesome knowing to open yourself up to those different variety of different things. And yeah, it's a hard thing to like learn to, I guess, believe in yourself and realize that, it's easier for others to like look at somebody and believe in them, but then like for you to believe in what others see in you, that's a big step in and of itself. And kind of something that we haven't focused on yet really in this show and talking about is, becoming the person, because we've done a lot of like intrinsic thing, like believing in yourself, but never maybe believing in like the type of person that you could be, that coaches see in you and different things like that. So I think that's a good thought or a good segment for a whole nother episode type thing. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head there. You had all the support staff looking at you and seeing you and saying they can believe in you. And then you realize, hey, wait, I can hang with these guys and do that, and find that switch. I think that's, once you get that, it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So recruiting and going off to college, did you like do the whole like recruit, like go visit different places and just like pick your like the best school, for you and all that kind of stuff, or like?
Yeah, I went on a couple visits to schools in general just to get an education. Some weren't necessarily wrestling schools, but I did go see some wrestling schools. But the junior college I went to, I ended up taking a visit out there just to check it out. And then it's a pretty nice place, but it is still funny because even though I went to a visit and they're recruiting hard, so it was still like, oh, I'm probably not going to go wrestle in college. But then, I eventually just kind of did it. It was kind of, I woke up one morning, was like, all right, I'm going to go wrestle in college.
I'd say that's a good day to wake up and make that decision then. That's awesome. So, and where was that again? Where'd you end up at?
North Idaho College. That was a junior college. I was there for 3 years because I ended up redshirting because I got hurt, and then I transferred to Hastings College in Nebraska.
Okay, North Idaho, so all the way from Alabama out west, and Nick and we got some ties out west with Pete from Idaho, and I'm sure Nick's got some stories, and you may have heard of some of his stories out west and going out to Idaho for the first time and whatnot.
Keep some of those secrets. We've never rolled any rocks. I've never done anything in Idaho. Except kill a deer. I killed a deer illegally. It was a legal kill.
With the rock or
the deer? The deer hunting was legal. I have the tag. I still have the tag. No mention. We're not talking about rolling rocks or anything like that. All right, not right now. Do some crazy. Hassan, I don't know if I even told you that story. We talked about some crazy things that going out there because he and I were talking on our show about like the cultural difference from Birmingham, Alabama to out there, which Ed, you can testify, being from Oklahoma to Korea and then to Chattanooga. But we talked about some of the things that are different out there in Idaho coming through. So everywhere's got their little quirks and things that are just that area.
Yeah, very true. I think it's especially interesting right now because we're able to see a lot of different things and quirks from different areas of the country just with the pandemic, like the reactions in different states and different areas because everybody's affected kind of differently about it. Other states have been affected a lot more harshly. You know, I mean, not necessarily harshly, but like they've had a lot more cases. They're just like it's a different. You know, they're more congested with people, so it went through certain areas first. So you can see a different level of like how people react to things based on just region, and that's just off of just turning on any news thing right now with just the regional pandemic. You take that away, and you still have. It's still funny to see how people would react to things and do things. And yeah, cultures are just, even though we're one country, man, from state to state, can be like a different world, you know? I mean, heck,
depending on how big the state is, it could be different.
I mean, heck, Tyler, like he spends like half his life down at the beach sometimes, or used to, you know, I mean, that's a different lifestyle down there than it is up here in the foothills, you know, of South Carolina. So, you know, I mean, it's different from region to region. So, but
Yeah, I mean, talking about the beach, like when I was living down there and working down there, the lifestyle there is completely different than it is up here. And then also the lifestyle in the mountains, because I spend a lot of time hiking, and as you know, the lifestyle up there is completely different. I mean, not as different as it is from here to Charleston, but it's still there's that little bit different lifestyle. You know, things a little more spaced out. People are a little more. It's different. So
it's interesting to think about like just different locale and different ways of thinking, and just based off of what's around you and your surroundings and all that, you know? So, but all right. Northern Idaho, what was your favorite, let's go with favorite wrestling memory from out there?
Favorite wrestling memory would probably be we took a trip to wrestle in the Grandview Open. The trainer knew Brent Metcalf because he works with a lot of our USA wrestlers. So I got to meet most of the Iowa State team, got to practice in their room to get a good weight cut workout before the tournament. And then I got to meet Brent Metcalf and then watch Iowa State out. And it's just so cool because, you know, you grew up watching Brent Metcalf on Flow Wrestling, and you watch, you know, the practice, like all access practice films on Flow Wrestling, and you actually get to see it like firsthand. It's pretty cool. So that's probably my favorite memory from North Idaho.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it also kind of reminds me, I mean, like, I guess Nick and I guess will be the old guys in the group since we were both coaches to the other two guys over here. Like, you know, what I was Nick. So Nick, when you were growing up, what access because we didn't have Flow, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have all that for us. What was your, like, how did you follow wrestling, or what did you do, or did you, or was there a way to, or what was your thing that you remember? I've told my story, and I'll go with it in a minute.
Yeah, and so, I mean, obviously you're Oklahoma, you're heartland. I mean, wrestling is here. I'm growing up in Alex City, Alabama, where fortunately the history of that wrestling in that area is so rich because of the number of state championship ones. So it's kind of like ingrained. So I was fortunate to have that part, but and so people, even though they hadn't gone off to college in forever, it was still kind of there that parents or grandparents had wrestled in college. But as far as like in the South in the 90s wrestling, it wasn't there. Like there was no, heck, even ESPN didn't cover it. So how did I know? It was because you get your USA card, and then you get the magazine, and it's like, oh, there's these camps. And so, and I mean, you know, the little social media thing you guys are doing, you know, my guy was John Smith. I love John Smith. I don't know why. I just loved the way he wrestled, watched him, and was like, oh, okay. So he's at Oklahoma State. Well, and they win. So that's what it is. And I mean, back then, and I tell my athletes this now, like, I was terrible. I mean, coming in there, getting the crap beat out of me, but I knew I wanted to wrestle in college. I didn't have a clue. I thought you just went D1. It's just what you did. I didn't know there was anything else. So should have probably been at a lower level, but we wouldn't have had the connections we have today. But you know, there's no wrestling. Heck, there's still only one college wrestling team in the state of Alabama, and it's D2, I think, D3, NAI, something like that. So yeah, so I mean, we didn't have, even Hassan didn't really have, thanks to Flo, but it's not like it was in Oklahoma where you could pick up the newspaper in the winter and see, all right, here's the wrestling scores from the Sooners or from the Cowboys and from the stuff around. So there was no following, and there was no internet. Yeah, guys. Yeah, you young bucks. There was no internet back then. So.
Dial up. They don't know that dial-up noise.
I do know about that dial-up noise. How dare you?
And the,
Unfortunately, I
and
know about it.
He said,
and the
unfortunately.
yeah, and the NCAA tournament wasn't in big arenas. It was in like colleges.
Yeah.
So, which I mean, it was, which I'm glad it is what it is. But yeah, that's kind of the era we grew up in. So that was how I did it. And I mean, Chattanooga just became the one I got to just because it was close. It was D1. I was like, oh, well, it's the closest Division One. I didn't know that there was other schools around till we got up there and we started wrestling them. It's like, oh, okay, could have gone here or there, but kind of like you get on campus and Chattanooga's just a beautiful place. So it's like, all right, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think with the social media flow and everything else, like there's just more attention to D1, D2, D3, NAIA, all those things that, like I said, I just didn't know about until going off to college and stuff. Hearing Nick talk about it, Tyler, I mean, it makes me realize how lucky we are in the state of South Carolina. And that's a weird thing to say, how lucky we are in the state of South Carolina. Like, we've got several schools with wrestling here, I mean,
we do. Small schools, though.
Small schools, but still. But we've also got D1 programs come with PC, adding a women's program. We've got 2 colleges with women's programs. We've got D1 schools. PC is going to be Southern Conference D1. Citadel.
Aren't they D1? Or are they?
Athens D1, but they're in North Carolina.
No, Limestone.
Limestone, I think, is.
Are they D2?
They're either D2 or NAIA. One of the two.
I can never remember just because I know that. I mean, Limestone's had some good cats, though. I mean,
yeah, no, they've had some good people come through there. So, Todd, what did you follow? How did you get into like wrestling? Was there anything other than like I know the Scoggins were into the mixed martial arts and martial arts, and wrestling is one of the oldest martial arts.
Yeah, for me, it was hard to follow because I mean we were still in like the infancy of like YouTube and all that back when I was when I was younger. So I mean it was gaining popularity. I mean if YouTube was gaining popularity, more things were getting on there. But I still remember like when it's still very fresh. So some of the things I would find on there. It's funny that Hassan actually mentioned Metcalf. I remember I watched the Metcalf Darian Caldwell match on YouTube and all the backflip and Metcalf pushing him and all that good stuff. I watched it. I would watch it on YouTube.
Work at NCAA's.
Yeah, so I would watch it off YouTube when I could find it on there, or I was fortunate enough to have like ESPN2 and stuff. And occasionally, not very often, occasionally I would, I'd be scrolling down looking for stuff and I would see it on. And if I saw it on, I would always go and watch it. And usually it was reruns. It could sometimes be from like a season before. It could be like a few days before. So it's not like I had immediate access like I had wanted to. But, I made do with what I had. And then, just trying to learn more about it in ways that I could, figuring out who's big where. And then, luckily, once things got more like social media, Flow Wrestling, and like YouTube and all that stuff, when that became more popular, it became a little bit easier to find information. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Nick said it. Like I grew up in. Well, I didn't grow up in Oklahoma. Like I moved to Oklahoma for like my high school part of my education, and they were like, try wrestling. It's got weight classes. I was like, all right, cool, and didn't realize how big it was out there till you get started in it. And realize how much of a learning curve you have to get into something out there with it. But yeah, so there was a lot of stuff with it. You can open up the newspaper, find any high school score of, any sort you wanted, from high school on up. But I still remember for me, my dad, after I started, bringing home a ESPN magazine or something. It was an article they had on the Brands brothers. And since we didn't have, like you said, Flow and everything on computers and all that kind of stuff, man, I reread that article no less than probably 5 times a night before, during wrestling season. That was my let me turn on the Wrestling Flow channel was that magazine. So, and that's why I picked Terry Brands as my person I put on the site today, for my person. So I'm going to say you guys check out the Cerebrus Wrestling page, and I just put a little thing on there amongst all the different things people have done with sports. Hey, post a picture of your favorite wrestler, current or past, and, tag somebody else in, and just see how many different wrestling people we can get to show up on there of different, either time era genres. things like that. I know even though Tyler's a younger guy, like his favorites are based off of Kerry Colott and Dave Schultz. I mean, he's got that old school, love for the sport of those guys. So
Speaking of which, I'm curious, did you see who I posted for day 2?
you put in there North Carolina,
Jaworski.
Jaworski. Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious. There's actually a reason I did it, and I'm curious if people are going to get that connection. Because yesterday I posted Kerry, and then today I posted TJ, and it was kind of planned because in NCAA tournament they met before. They had like a miniature rivalry, and so I was kind of like, there's a little kind of a nod to the little small rivalry they had back in the day.
Yeah. Cool enough. So, all right. But you guys check it out. Go post a wrestler on there. Tell us who your favorite is. Tag somebody. Tell them to go check it out and post somebody else on there so we can see who we can get on that page and in the next 10 days, stuff to do. What else we got to do while we're all quarantined, right? We're all looking up wrestling stuff anyway at some point in time. I know we all got stuff to do, but I know we're all looking at wrestling at one point or another.
That's all the wrestling picks.
So,
Congratulations, you finished your semester. Finish your semester too, right?
Do what?
Said Hassan should have finished his semester too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got everything finished and done, or you ready to?
I got 2 more weeks left, and I can't wait for it to be over.
Oh.
I have no motivation.
What are you studying? What are you studying right now, Hassan?
Communications with a minor in small business and entrepreneurship.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. An online school, there's no motivation. I don't want to do it.
I understand completely. Trust me.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to somebody else about that. Online schooling works when you want to do it, but if you're thrust into it, like
yeah,
the scheduling and making sure you're on task and all that kind of stuff. Talking to a buddy who's talking about his kid, he's like, how did he say it? I forget exactly how he said it, but he was like, he's a space cadet. I'm like, dude, this online learning is hard for space cadets. Like being in a class and a teacher being able to, literally snap your fingers and get them on there. But just having a list of assignments to turn in by a certain time. Oh yeah, I think I did that. I don't know. I'm going to go do this. Like I can see it. It's not easy. It's hard. So.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen how I've been recording with you back in the day, Coach Purdy, with the fly going around the room and both of our attention getting drawn away.
Oh yeah.
What we're doing, like, it's for me that's my biggest issue is even though I enjoy what I'm learning, I get so distracted and I have a hard time reeling it back in. So like, what I have to do is I have to shut everything off and get totally quiet for like 20 minutes so I can get in the zone. And then once I'm there, I can kind of keep going. But anything that pulls me out from there, I'm done. So.
Yeah, you three are all like very extroverted, more people than I am. So like, I got my master's degree online, and it was like all for me. Like, I can't stand going to class. I'm like, tell me what to do. I'll knock it out. Done. So going to class is like, no, I'm good, man. So yeah. I'd be like my son right now. I'd be living it up. I would just be like, oh, here's my list. Go.
Yeah. I mean, for some it works. I mean, but it's like Tyler said, like even these things here, like this is work for me. It's 4 of us and we're talking wrestling for the most part. But like getting some of these meetings I got to do or different things like that. And I had one, the other day, and it was like with a whole bunch of people for like this thing I do until we had our breakout session. I'm over here like looking at Tyler like, what's he staring at? And I'm like, what's that in the background of that person's house over there? Or like, I'm like, okay, God, we were talking for the last 10 minutes. I was supposed to be doing something. It was about to be my turn. I'm like, man, click the screen off. I'm gone. So it is different. So, all right, Hassan, what are you planning on doing after? I guess that's the question everybody always asks anybody graduate. What's the next step after you finish through?
I'll probably try to go get my master's in sports psychology somewhere. I still don't know where yet. It's kind of just a new thought.
Okay.
That, and I might get back into like adaptive sports, get back into like the Paralympic stuff.
Awesome.
Definitely will stay around the wrestling though. Try to where I can, but about it. back into adaptive sports or chase my masters and can.
Cool deal. Cool deal. You plan on staying out west, do you think? Have you kind of like fallen in love with it out there? Or is there a part of you that wants to come back, I guess, home? Is Alabama home or?
Yeah, Alabama's home. I mean, the West is cool. I loved it. I've been to LA. I lived in Idaho. It's sweet out there, but I want to be closer to home. With this, a lot going on with the virus, but also, just other life stuff from home is kind of tough. So I just want to be close to home. I try to stay, if not in Alabama, close to Alabama.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. If that's one thing that, again, that I would say is a positive of all this stuff is like people realizing, the importance of, family and home and like those that are important to you. It's cool to be able to do this. It's cool to be able to Zoom. It's cool to be able to see people, and we're doing more of it. But I think it also is just making us all realize like the importance of like, what we really want to do or where we want to be and things like that. So, I think that's, finding positives to take away from stuff and get back to it is pretty cool. So another thing we try to talk a lot about is motivation and staying positive. Obviously you're not feeling the most motivated, so with schooling and all, but what would you tell people if somebody was to say dealing with adversities and things that you've had, like what would you say is way, because we know if you need to get something done, you're going to get it done within these next 2 weeks. We know that our motivation may not be high, but we know, we all know as wrestlers that when, push comes to shove, when it's time to do something, we can get it done. But, what would you give somebody advice-wise that was having hard times with something and wanting to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a scenario or something. How did you stay positive, or how did you, get through hard times? Because we've all had those ups and downs in the room while we're in school. Things got hard, whether it be the classroom, the practice room, and that motivation of like, man, something's going to give, whether it be the classroom or the athletics, but you had to like find a way to push through it. How did you, what did you draw inspiration on, or how did you push through some of those hard times and those things?
Mostly just like my support group, my support system, whether it was my family or calling up Coach Tucker if I'm going through something. I've done that a lot, actually. It's either that or it's really just kind of trying to find something to inspire me, where there's like something creative, something that like maybe a YouTube motivational video, just something to kind of get my focus like narrowed back into what it needs to be focused on. But sometimes, like you said, we're kind of got to get it done. So when it came to, school, no motivation, done, but like just in life, I try to lean on my support group as much as I can when I need, their help and that motivation, and then just try to hear, motivational speech that, you like fire ready to go. But most times it's really just my support group that kind of helps me just reel me back in and like kind of help me know what's like what I need to focus on and what's
Cool. And I think that's just again, so many things that, we talk about, and it's like preaching to the choir, but, I hope other people that listen to it, get it as well. Like, that stuff that we talk about, finding like-minded people, having that support group that you can always go to for anything, whether it be athletics, whether it can be school, whether it could be, something spiritual, whether it can be, it doesn't matter what it is, that you have that support group that you can fall back onto in hard times, I think is important. And then you hit on something else, the creativity thing, sometimes finding that. And Nick and Tyler was actually talking with Quantel not too long ago and seeing about maybe getting him on the show next week. And, because he's got all the creative tips and things like that. He's also doing the face shields that we talked about, his stuff that we've ordered from him before. And, he wrestled with us at UTC. So I just find it nice to hear somebody else that I've never met before, kind of reiterate a lot of the same things that, Tyler and I have been preaching to people for as long as we've been doing this now, finding yourself with like-minded people and that support group and, and then doing this and being able to do the show with Tucker and everything else like that. It just kind of like not validates, but makes you feel good that, hey, this is what works for people and what does things. And, we've all been doing it and living it and trying to share it with everybody else. So it's awesome to hear people, I guess, validate what we've been trying to say to people for a few things. All right. Well, that's like all I guess I can think of for like questions as far as like, interviewing or stuff like that. I'm not saying we're ending the show or anything, but like unless anybody else had any other specific questions for Hassan, or was there something from your show that like stood out that you wanted to mention real quick or anything from earlier? Because I know we were going to try to talk rules and stuff, weren't we, today?
Yeah. I don't know. Anything you want to add in from what we talked about this on? I can't really. He said, no, he's good too. Yeah.
I'm good. All right. But yeah, so wrestling hit a few new rules. I think most of the rules seem pretty sound, pretty good. There wasn't any, unless I didn't see it, that struck me as like, man, this is stupid. I don't know why they're doing this one. I think most of the rule changes are in a shift in the right direction. I think the hair, just letting the hair be, is finally one that needs to have happened. It was an antiquated old rule that made no sense. Hairnets, no hairnets, special ones for headgears. Oh, now wait, if you don't have it, but if you haven't cut here or not cut here, or it was so ambiguous as far as like depending on which official weighed you in or did something. It just made no sense whatsoever to me. And that's one that I am 100% happy to see just gone. Even though I'll say it, I'm like, it's just easier just to have your hair cut short and it's more sanitary while you're wrestling and stuff. But, hey, but that's, my personal opinion on it. And I'm like, but I'm glad to see it go, because too many other kids, like, yeah, so what if his hair is just a little bit long, or, or whatnot, as long as there's not sticks coming out of it or something, rock, or something, it's so bad that, I don't know, hiding something in it, but dadgum. I mean, Dayton Fix is, as good as they come, and his stuff is just like out the top of it,
Yeah, I had a kid one time that he had the hair like Dayton Fix, and we'd go some places and officials would literally go, his hair is too long. And I had to carry a rule book and be like, it says in natural state. I'm like, he wakes up like that every day. I'm like, you can go over there and try to lay it down, and you can see there's nothing in it. And the officials, most of them would either say, no, he's good. Every now and then I have a person come over and put their hand on it, and they'd be like, oh, okay. And then, of course, there's those couple, like you said, that would go, nope, it's still too long. He's got to wear a hairnet. So we carried a skull cap, and didn't have to, and he'd have to wear it. But after the first time where it affected his match, I was like, dude, you got to understand, there's going to be some people, but I'm going to fight for you. And that changed it. And by his senior year, no official. Everybody was just like, go. So, I mean, so he did. He had the bend, just the fro that just kind of stuck. So it's pretty cool. I'm like, young guy's gone. I think I mentioned last week, I think it came a year later than it should, because they didn't want to feel like they were giving into the pressure last year when they should have done it last year. But either way, it's done.
Yeah. I mean, heck, that's one that really is like, there's certain rules that hold in like that one that should have been just evaluated. Like, why is this rule a rule? It was for what reason? No, it doesn't make any sense. Like, let's go ahead and pull it now. So instead of waiting for something to happen.
And Hassan got to wrestle this year with the hair stuff. So, I mean, that's something that, Ed, you wouldn't understand. We know this. The rest of us have some facial hair. Yeah. So those people had to shave. When a senior in high school, I'm having to shave in the morning, and then they're making me shave at night. What was it like? What was it like to be able to go to a competition and know that you didn't have to shave? Hassan.
It was nice because it was funny because I remember my senior year, I had like was on my chin, and then I like try to like mention it and just keep it on the slide of it.
Break up.
No, I wore it for a second. I broke it up. Yeah, you were just talking about the hair, and then your senior year.
Yeah, so my senior year, I had like a little baby peach fuzz, and I was messing with it, and the dude was like, "You need to shave that." I'm like, "There's barely anything." But then, came around college, I had like this nice little beard coming. I had to keep shaving it all the time, and it just got annoying. And then even wearing a chin cup, they're like, "You still need." Then this year, I find like whatever, And it was just nice because I could wake up and not have to go shave. I just go wrestle and throw on a headgear and be fine instead of having to try to shave in the morning and at night, and it was just. I'm so happy they changed that rule.
Yeah, it's a good one. Like I said, I really didn't have to worry about it much. I could maybe grow a goatee, but that's about it. But like, but I do see it. Like you get seniors, and they're like, Hank, they're just running around looking for shaving cream at night, even though they'd shaved in the morning. And then it's now we're focusing our energy and thought on finding a razor and finding shaving cream so you don't burn yourself or whichever and all that, instead of when you should be just worried about, I made weight and now I want to hydrate and get ready. Instead, you're running around looking for shaving cream or who's got lotion, just whatever they end up looking for. And you're like,
Yeah.
is this really that big of a deal? Is this what our sport has come to worry about,
Yeah,
go ahead, Tyler.
No, I was just gonna say with the whole shaving thing. I mean, I could initially I could understand why they would want people to shave just because of the irritation, but I mean it's not really going to cause as much of an issue as they think. And then on top of it, if you do shave, especially if you're shaving in a hurry, what happens is, especially if you nick yourself like me, I've got really thick hair on my face, and that's why actually part of the reason I don't shave is because it tugs real bad, just because it's so thick. And what happens is you get these like small little cuts, and like your skin gets all messed up if you shave.
I can see you messing yourself up more before.
Well, yeah, you're not only going to scar your face up, but also what's going to happen is because it's freshly cut and it's exposed, you're going to be more likely to get something like mat herpes or something get into there, because it's basically almost like a slightly open wound. I mean, it's
counterproductive to what they were trying to initially do with it.
I mean, I don't think anyone's ever, wrestled with me or rolled with me and been like, had an issue. I mean, I remember wrestling with Joggin in the wrestling room, and his hair was like super sharp, and it never bothered me. I don't know if you remember Ryan Futrell. He's another one that was like sophomore, junior, had a full beard.
He was shaving in 7th grade, man.
Yeah, I know. I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, you might get like a little bit of, abrasions on you, but it's not. I mean, you're in a sport where you're getting, your face pushed around, and you're getting beat up in there. The least of my concern was if someone's hair is gonna kind of irritate my skin.
Yeah.
So.
Now, the only thing I do like isn't it like it has to be it can't be like more than X number of inches or something? I think that makes sense. Like, with wrestling, you go for a half. You don't want a guy with a beard like down.
No, I 100% do. I 100% someone with like just an unholy beard or like twirled mustache. That's what I would like. Just let it go.
Because then I'm runching my hand underneath that beard and grabbing a whole hand of it and holding on to that for a half right there.
I mean, but at least you'll look good doing it, though. I mean,
no, I'm talking about running half on somebody who's got that. Like,
I know. That's what I'm saying. At least like if you're out there, that happens, you're still gonna look good. Like when you come out of it, just because he's like, hey, look, I got this nice beard. I think you're just a little jealous that you can't grow one, so you wouldn't understand.
It is true. It is true. I'm gonna come out of like after a half and hold his beard up in my hand. So.
Yeah, that's the one that I know. I know why they did it with the hair. It's all about hygiene, but I mean, I think it's another outdated one that, especially with all the skin stuff and things like that. Because Tyler, you hit the nail on the head. Those guys come in. That's right there. So that's one I would like to see trickle down from college to high school. Is just go ahead and say, all right, let's let these guys have it. It can't be abrasive, but it also the officials have to be able to see underneath to make sure everybody's safe. I don't think that one will ever make it but then again, we are weighing in singlets and stuff like that now. So,
but it also should.
Maybe we are a little bit.
But it should, because like Hassan said, like he's a senior and he's got some peach fuzz and they're making him shave. And I'm like, come on now, guys. The majority of people in high school, it'll be like what 10, 20% of the guys who've been shaving since they were like 6 years old that look like Tyler as they step out on the mat as freshmen. But that's a small percentage, and like I said, it's not abrasive and it's not any of that kind of stuff. The rest of them are having to shave peach fuzz that they've spent, all summer long trying to grow out for their little girlfriends or whichever, You
got 15 hairs that kind of push together, and yeah.
You know what's funny about that though is, I guess it's because I take care of my beard. My beard now is less like abrasive than it would be if I were to shave. If I were to completely clean shave, my because it's so thick, that stubble would actually be more abrasive than this. because I wash it, I take care of it. I make sure it's, beard oil and all that stuff to keep it soft for that very reason,
Did you find the same thing, Hassan, when you started growing it out in the room?
Yeah, like it was never, no one ever mentioned like if it was like rough or anything. And then when I finally started to grow out the beard, I just used beard oil and stuff, but it was just a lot easier to just go to practice and not worry about my beard instead of like having to, okay, before practice because I don't want to mess with anybody. So I feel like the rule was definitely needed. But yeah, like it's just the small little nick. Rest with you got peach fuzz, you need to go shave, but it's not like hurting anybody unless it's all crazy, But if it's not, then I didn't see it hurting anybody. But to me, it's just normal. I go to practice just to practice. I don't go, oh, I'm gonna get my beard tangled or I'm gonna my beard's in my body. So it was a much needed full change for sure.
Gotcha. It was pretty cool to watch NCAA too when they did that. It was like, oh, now they look like real gladiators up there with the beards and stuff. So I enjoyed that part.
Yeah, I think that was a good rule change. Weighing in singlets, I think that just makes sense. Just expedites things, like you said. Tyler mentioned it before. Now that we've got more girls wrestling, more women's wrestling participants, it just makes sense. Instead of sitting there, when's the tournament going to start? Oh, we still had to go find a female trainer to weigh in the 3 girls or 5 girls, or even their whole weight class. We got to now split like when let's do the guys first, and then we'll move the scales into the other gym for the girls. Now we can just do it and be done with it and just get everybody going. It's one of those things with weight cutting and other things like that we've talked about before. We've got to figure out something with that. There'll always be some way of doing weight classes, but weighing in which you're wrestling, what you're going to wear, so weigh in with it makes sense to me, so.
Let me ask you, this is not something I've thought too much about. I'm curious what y'all think of this, talking about the weight cutting issue. One way that I know some sports prevent it, like they do this in jiu-jitsu and some tournaments where you actually have mat side weigh-ins. So right before you go out, you actually have to step on a scale, and that way you're not like depleting yourself in the morning time and then rehydrating. Do you think if wrestling, would wrestling ever go to that? And 2, if it does, do you think that would be a solution?
I would love to see something like that happen to take out weight cutting so that everybody would realize not everybody has to drop down a weight. I just don't think that it could happen because they're so – I could see them maybe doing it internationally because internationally is a smaller sector. They know what they're doing. They could, figure out kind of like how like ONE FC did overseas where they monitor their weight for like that week before their fight, and like they went with a natural body weight monitor. Like they had to do the daily weight checks and hydration and stuff to make sure they weren't just cutting water out, and they went with their percentages and things like that. Maybe at the higher international levels where there's less competitors, but there's always going to be those that would still cut and maybe still be able to perform to an extent, with high school to colleges and all the different levels of colleges. Like, I don't know. I would like to see more of a push somehow for people to – they're doing some of the right things with the hydration tests and certifications, but there's still too many loopholes with it, because they're like, well, this is what you weigh at the beginning of the year. You can be down to this weight by the end of the year. But then again, we know not every school and every coach does it the right way, per se, and people are still cutting in the end. I don't know. I don't have the clear-cut answer. I don't like weight cutting.
Yeah, neither do I.
At the same time, though, it's one of those stories that we've all had on cutting weight that has bonded us that are old school too. But if there was one thing to go from wrestling that I guess would be for the safety of the sport long-term, future-wise, weight cutting is one that's been proven enough that those that do it, I don't know what he's looking for.
No, it's I was just hearing something outside, and it sounds like the storms that they're calling for are starting to roll in a little bit.
Yeah, they are going to be coming in again. But I think weight cutting is unhealthy. No matter how you get around it,
All right, so I was going to say, so Ed and I wrestled in college, and it's definitely a lot. So Hassan, what are your thoughts on that?
I think weight cutting should be ruled out of sports. I hate it. And put in a hospital because of it multiple times due to hydration. I just don't like it. I've had to do it for, tournaments to fit into a team's lineup. I just think, especially to grow the sport, weight cutting should not be a thing. I think the Russians are the guys that go up a weight class. Actually, they get strong and go up a weight. I think that's better than cutting. And then Kyle Dake did it. He kept going up weight classes, and I like that trend. I'd rather people get stronger and go up in a weight class rather than cut to weight class. And you're just putting your body at risk for multiple things plus injuries. I've gotten most of my injuries are from cutting weight. And it's cutting weight, it just isn't healthy at all. Even if you do it the right way, like some people aren't meant to cut that much weight. Like for me, I'm a big dude and I was cutting a lot of weight. Even though I'm drinking a gallon of water a day and eating healthy, I still didn't look right, and it is very unhealthy. I feel like, cutting weight should not be a thing. If it's like, 5 pounds and you're close, if you got to cut, 20 pounds to get to a weight class just to compete, that's not okay. And I also know some guys, especially in college, that had to cut just to make certifications.
Yeah, that's
those certifications. It's just like
that's cheating the system again. Is what I'm saying. So
it's dangerous. I just feel like cutting weight shouldn't be there. It's just dangerous all in all, whether it's from getting injured to dehydration to all of it. I just don't like cutting weight at all.
I know you guys coach middle school, and just in there, because you say you're throwing it out, it was just running through my head, kind of like you, Tyler, and just it could be like minor league baseball with the pitch clock. Like I think middle school wrestling weighing in at the table in your singlet would be a great introduction, because at middle school it's all the way at least I coach. I know you guys first like we just want just a weigh in wrestle. And so you just begin to teach them, and then maybe transition that up to a high school setting. College, international, I don't think you're going to, but I do like maybe colleges, you do the hour before weigh-in, like televise the weigh-in like UFC and stuff like that, kind of hype it up. But I can see it. I wouldn't mind seeing it introduced like at a middle school level right there, because then those parents want to see their kids. You don't have to worry about getting those kids out of school early. They just show up, get off the bus.
Yeah. I mean, for us, that's pretty much what we do anyway. But, like we have most of our guys go at their natural body weight, But I think it's like beyond us. It's like there's still too many, old school, like got to cut the weight, and too many people who aren't vested in what's best for their athletes. And they're like you said, like having to fit the lineup, and let's have you drop 20 pounds to fit in here so we can do better as a team. No, until we can figure out a way to have our weight classes still or some other way to separate them out into our classes. But like I said, or if it's just, like you said, just introducing it from that young age, and as we grow the sport and as you grow, if that's the only way you knew how to do it in middle school, and we make sure that everybody's on board with this, the coaches aren't trying to cheat the system or something, hey, mat side weigh-in, step on, good, we're ready to go. I think there'd have to be the flexibility with a mat side weigh-in of like you're within, because now we're not like checking weight, but like if we're just going by natural weight, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't like it, but
I mean, it could be like when we went out to Tulsa this year, you weighed in ahead of time. I know it was still a day ahead, but you got on the scale, and if you were at the weight class or below, you were good. So I mean, I think we still have the weight classes, and this is where, and the reason I guess I say middle school before high school is middle school, you're more willing to match up. Coaches are more willing to match up. Mm-hmm. And then so you guys could almost like we sit our lineups together and go, all right, this is my kid. He's at this one. Okay. And so literally,
what we do a lot.
The whole thing. Yeah. And so now it's not an exhibition. Now everybody's wrestling. But they get used to going out there. So that kid is not, oh, hey, you need to go light at lunch day. No, dude, eat, whatever. We'll move you up a weight class. And that makes more people excited because they know they're going to wrestle.
Yeah.
That's why I think it could start there. But once again, I think those people that are open-minded are probably already doing that because you've seen the success of retention at the middle school level, and you've seen the success at the high school level going, dude, you're sucking down to 145. Our 160 is not very good. You can probably beat that kid and you eat. And so they go there. But Hassan, and you guys hit the nail on the head. It's culture because, I mean, that's something that we all here. We have kids with culture that are walking around the school spitting and things like that. And it's like, no, that's not. You're dehydrated. You're killing it. You're killing yourself, man.
We've got to do that like they've done with some of the rules, and like let's get rid of the things that don't make sense. Let's quit cutting weight. Quit cutting weight like we're worried about like peach fuzz and hair.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
So. Yeah, I mean, for me, just weight cutting in general to me it seems completely counterintuitive. I mean, people want to get that advantage by dropping down to be bigger. But at the same time, I mean, you're taking a hit on your stamina, you're taking a hit on your strength, your energy. You're taking a hit at so many different things that you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage, I think. And so for me, if anything, I that's why I don't like weight cutting. I think it's completely backwards. I think the logic behind it is backwards. And I feel like if you really want to perform well, you should either, one, wrestle at your natural body weight, or two, go up and add more strength. You know, I mean, we've seen people do it. Like Hassan mentioned Kyle Dake. We've seen David Taylor put on more weight. Yeah, I mean, Bo Nickel went up a weight class his senior year at Penn State. I mean, we see that, you know, when you wrestle without having to cut weight, your performance is significantly better. You know, you have that energy, you have that strength, and you're able to go longer, and you're at a decreased risk for injury. So, I mean, for me, it's just common sense, like, hey, don't cut weight. But then again, I think it's like you said, it's so embedded in the culture of our sport that it's something that the old school people don't necessarily really want to let go of. It's kind of like that rite of passage that you have a weight cut story. I mean, I've got one. I know. I'm sure all of y'all have one. So yeah, I think it's something we need to get rid of, though.
Yeah, but that's one set of stories I think we could do without. You know, as much as we have ours and we can laugh about it now, but like, you know,
I mean, my first one involved almost passing out in the sauna. I mean, I was in a sauna wearing sweats and all that, trying to get some pounds off before a tournament, and I decided to lay down to try to just kind of relax, and I nodded off just a little bit, but I kind of blacked out. And, you know, next thing I know, I'm sitting in the actual locker room part of the gym that I was, you know, in the sauna at, and everyone's like, you feeling all right? And, you know, I was pale. And so, I mean, it's funny now, but back then, you know, that's dangerous.
I mean, Hassan hits the nail on the head, and as coaches, you guys have seen it. It's injuries, especially if you're doing it for a prolonged period. Weakens the tendons, it weakens everything. We had a kid this year who I didn't realize it until towards the end. His natural body weight was around 130. He was cutting to 113. I mean, and it was miserable. And he was like, I mean, and early on he was killing people. And I was like, we were like going, what? And then finally, he and my son are good buddies now. Kale's finally like let the cat out of the bag. And yeah, Dad, he was
catching up to his body at the end, finally.
Yeah, and so I mean, I never told the kid point blank after season, but I told Kel, I was like, next year you need to be like 130ish, somewhere like that. And like the word that we're hearing now is like, you know, he's already told Kel, I'm gonna go 132 or 138. He's like, I'm not losing weight anymore. And the kid's got the skill, but he had no strength. Like Tyler, once again, you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, he had nothing. By the time the state tournament rolled around, he had nothing left. And he was just yo-yo dieting, all the stuff. But by that time of the season, you're too stuck in what you got. So he kind of had to suck it up. But he learned from it. And like I said, I mean, the team is learning from it. And so it's one of those cultures that you kind of begin to push out. So,
like Hassan said, if we really want to grow the sport and have people enjoy it, that's not one way to keep people loving the sport. That's one of the quickest ways to, minus the singlet debate, that's one of the quickest ways to get people to not want to do our sport. Oh, I can't eat. Oh, I got to lose weight. You know, so that's also nixing that, you know, I mean, it's one of the biggest, you know, hurdles to wrestling. So,
yeah, you can do subtle things.
I mean,
like
fit,
a diet change to get
getting
to do
fit and being natural is different than cutting weight, you know.
Yeah, 40 going, yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, dropping 2 weight classes, no. So I was talking. So after we did our interview last week, I interviewed Josh Bierman, who actually, speaking of, he's the kid that helped shift me as a coach. He was one of those kids. I think he was cutting down to some stupid weight, and we had literally had like 160, 170-pound kid quit the team. He jumped up. So one kid jumped up, he jumped up, and all those kids who were struggling became like state placers that year. And so as a coaching staff, we shifted. But anyway, he's an official. So I'm going to ask you this, ask him. So the one about if an offensive wrestler is potentially scoring and the defensive wrestler signals injury time, it is now up to the official's discretion that they can award the takedown, they can award the points and start injury time. But it's up to their discretion. What are your thoughts on that one?
I don't like leaving things to the official's discretion because, and this is just maybe our area, or not our area, maybe the Clover area, one of the areas where we go to, the inconsistency of the officials. Because one official's discretion will say, yay, that's 2. The other will say, no, it's not. I think for the rules, for the official's sake, like, it's got to be clear cut for them. Like, it's either, yeah, that was going to be 2, you award the 2, or no, it wasn't going to be 2, you know. But again, that is taking some discretion into it. But like wording it that way, I don't like it. I do like the fact that, yeah, you should get your 2 and then the injury timeout. It shouldn't stop a scoring. I don't think injury should stop a, like them doing the twirly bird. I don't think should stop, your scoring of points. But the way it's worded, to me, seems to going to lead to a lot of at the table arguments on whether or not they thought that was 2 or not. So, yeah. Because in all essence, like the way they say it, like, it's up to the official's discretion on whether any takedown is 2 or not, So they might as well just say, if they scored points, that the points will be awarded and then injury time will start. If no points were awarded, or if it was, if it wasn't a scoring move and injury time need, then it's still injury time. But I think the way they're wording it is giving a little too much in the wording for it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I 100% agree. I'm hesitant about any rule that says at the referee's discretion, just because, they're humans. There's a lot of, I mean, I don't want to bash any refs, but I mean, there's a lot of incompetent refs and there's a lot of competent ones. I mean, so it's kind of one of those things come down to a match time situation, including your area. If there's some sort of bias, I'm not trying to say that, referees are biased towards the area, but in some cases, some can be. But when you get into these scenarios where it's iffy, I feel like leaving it up to the ref's discretion is going to, like Coach Purdy said, is going to lead to a lot of unnecessary arguments at the table. Probably going to end up hit with some misconduct. So I wish there would just be, just a rule that would be like, yeah, he scored. Let's start injury time. Just like you said, I feel like that'd be the better rule set.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of lean the other way with you guys. I love it. Just because of it has become, at least around here, and even sometimes collegiate level, you're starting to see more people realize, like you said, the twirly bird is kind of like the timeout in football and stuff like that. And I'm going to let Hassan pick up here in a second because he's been competing and been sitting there and seeing that guy, like not just a takedown, but Mike Moore from Wrestling Mindset posted, I think after him, he goes, does this mean that the cry rule is now a pin? Because we've been there. So, and talking to Josh about it, he actually, as an official, likes it because, as he kind of said, and he calls at the state level, he's a high caliber official and very competent. He's like, it happens. It's starting to get that point where you're like, that this kid was about to score.
No,
but they used the rule. And so I told him the other thing I like about it. He said at the state big matches, he thinks that, there could be some stuff there. I told him my thing about the big matches is, there's going to be a secondary official. So I can go to the table and ask, hey, by your position, you may not. Can you ask him, do you think if that's not called, would we have been able to score? And we're going to have to learn how to talk about that. But then also the fact that I like the fact that it said and I may be wrong, but I'm always it said that injury time starts immediately. And we all know what happens the second injury time. I get choice. And that's the thing that I can see a lot of coaches maybe argue that and they lose and their kid gets injury time, then he takes it again. And now that can be a big change right there in the match moving forward. So,
yeah. I like the fact that they can say it's 2 for a takedown and whatnot. I think the discretion that's going to be awkward is how are they going to read into these things? Like, when did he call injury time? Was it really within the beginning of this takedown, and would it have finished? Like, how early on can we now say? Because now he's going to be like, he was backing up and he went injury time. What if he'd have gotten 2? That's more than discretion. That's like you're saying you have foresight onto what's going to happen. But I think if it's in the motion of, then for sure you got to give the 2 for the person. It's the right thing to do. But the discretion thing, like I said, I'm just playing semantics of the wording and when and how much power there.
And I think you hit the nail on that. I think it's applied in those situations when I think, and once again, I may not have the word, but it's like in the action. It's not, oh, I got poked in the eye, I'm back up, and I give the train, he shoots on me. No, this and that. So Hassan, you were shaking your head a minute ago about this. What the athlete currently? What's your thoughts on it?
I like it and I understand it. So like I've been in a position where I've had a dude and a half, and it's legal. You know, his shoulder might be wrenched, but I'm not wrenching it too hard. It's legal. Next thing you know, he does a swirly bird. I'm about to get back points, and then he gets no back points, and his shoulder all of a sudden stops hurting. But I do understand it, especially when it comes to college, all the crazy positions you get in when you scramble. So I can understand where you call injury time and you give a 2 because you're about to get taken down and you start injury time immediately. But also understand it and the fact that some people just throw the swirly bird to try call a timeout real quick. Next thing you know, they come back full of energy. So I kind of like the rule because I've seen people get cheated out of a couple of takedowns, a couple of back points, but I also understand it when it comes to people actually tweaking a knee crazy in a scramble or shoulder pop out. So I'm kind of the middle ground. I think as an athlete, I like it if I'm out to score to give me my points, but I think in the coaching aspect, it just kind of depends on in the ref aspect, depends on, the discretion of how bad it is and if it's a genuine I'm hurting or if it's a genuine save me,
Yeah. So, like, I've liked some refs I've seen them do it where they go ahead and they're like, oh, he's twirly bird, and they'll go like, pin, now you can go see your trainer. Always like those ones. But I think in college it'd be different too for because you just mentioned getting back points and stuff. Because now we have to think about if they did call this, injury time, and if you're continuing points, are you now continuing riding time, and how many seconds did I think there's a lot of moving keys in there, but
There's a point he brought up there that I didn't think about to just then, but that could be your argument also. If I'm going to the table and my guy is the one that's just gave up the 2 in the injury time, I'm going to look at him and go, did you not think that was a potentially dangerous situation with the angle of this? Because all we have to do, because of the wording, is throw some doubt in there. And if that official's like, well, that knee was at a bad angle, he used it. And if you can get them to go, and once again,
it's starting to hurt, and you tweak out, and you've had a knee injury, you're gonna or elbows,
some coaches have a little bit more pull than others based on the officials. So, it's part of the thing that makes coaching somewhat fun in that, but because you are looking out for your guy. But I like it. Because I'm getting tired of seeing this.
Oh yeah, I hate the twirly bird. I think we all do.
We say there's no timeout.
Yeah, just on the sense of also being who we all are and talking right now, you can just tell, Tyler would never throw in a twirly bird, to get out of something. If he did, he was actually he wouldn't. His head would just hit the mat and he'd be passed out. But you should have twirly bird, you might still be conscious right now, dude. But but that's just kind of who we are, I think. So, but. Well, guys, I think I'm starting to hear some thunder out there. I know Tyler was looking out there, so just we've had a good episode today, and just chatting it away, and also just safety and stuff, so I can make sure that we don't get a power flick and we lose the recording and whatnot. So
that's happened before. Right.
Yeah. So, but Hassan, we appreciate you coming on and chatting with us for a little bit. And obviously, the rest of you guys will later on tomorrow. I'll get it all uploaded, and then I'm gonna order some shirts for the A64.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay. It's the area code, I know.
Yeah. Then I was thinking about if it goes out good enough for the people around here, I'll throw it up on something like, "What's your area code?" and do custom ones. But
There you go.
So, all right, guys, take it easy.
See ya.